Hey, Kelly, quick question for you. Why do managers keep hiring people who look great on paper, but flame out once they get to be on the job?
First thing that came to my mind was hiring someone that's just like them.
That right there, that's the problem. And if you're managing people in an auction, that mistake will cost you more than a bad hire. It costs you culture. You ready to fix that? Can you meet me at the gate?
I'm Rich Levene, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real world problems head on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success.
So, what if I told you the resume doesn't matter nearly as much as you think? Most managers are trained to look at job history, credentials, and experience, but they're not trained to hire for attitude. And that's where things fall apart. So today we're bringing in one of the best in the business, Kelly Kimball, a people and culture expert who's helped companies build high-performing teams by hiring for values, not just for skills. Stick around, because at the end of this episode, you'll know how to hire someone your team can grow with, not just someone who looks good on paper. Before we even got through the first question, Kelly dropped a truth bomb. And Ty, he and I just looked at each other, because we've both made this mistake before. You probably have too. Let's dive into the first big hiring trap almost every manager walks right into.
Kelly,
Yeah.
what's one hiring mistake that you see managers make over and over and over again that costs you in culture later on down the road?
I'm going to go with the first thing that came to my mind was hiring someone that's just like them.
The problem with that? Why can't you hire? Why not hire somebody like me? Then I know what I'm doing.
You can, it's great. And then you're all going to be similar. And then you're not going to have any diversity in thoughts. I mean, you might get along, but yeah, or you might not get along. Depends on, just going to go right into DISC right here. It depends on if you're the same DISC assessment or not. But either hiring someone that's the same as them or hiring too quickly. And the other thing I think is not listening to what the candidate's actually saying.
Hiring someone similar.
Yep.
That's number one. What was number? You had three, I think.
Not listening to what the candidate's actually saying. So just pulling little pieces of what you want to hear, not digging into it.
How does it cost the company money by not hiring the right person? Is that what I heard Rich say? It costs the company money to hire the wrong person?
I would say, well, that's a good way to phrase it. I was going to say, how does it cost you in culture down the road?
Culture
and money. So this time we can be concerned about profits on this one, can't we, Rich?
Absolutely, we could be concerned about profits. Your profits, your plans, your products, your processes. But it all comes down to right here, hiring people. If you hire the right people, now you've got that first. So now we've put people before profits. So yes, in this show, we can talk about profits because it's technically about hiring the right people. You hire the right people, you make more money. How do we hire the right people?
That's why we have Kelly here.
Yeah.
So it's not a good idea, if I heard you right, it's not a good idea to hire somebody that thinks and acts like you.
Not all the time, right? If you have a team, correct. If you have a team, you're going to want diversity in thoughts and personality types. So that way you cover all your bases. Someone could bring something else to the table of being like, hey, I thought of this. Or like we had talked about a while ago, if you're really good at details and compliance, you might need some other personality type in order to balance you out. Depends on the role too. Is the person going to be happy in the role and what they're doing?
Do you expect a manager or the guy that's doing the hiring to understand what you just said?
Not all the time. That's why you need people and culture, right?
That's why what?
That's why you need people and culture to partner with you.
How do you train a manager to know how to hire?
I think
HR's job?
I think it's HR's job to partner with them. Yeah, to help partner and really dig into, I mean, for me, I lead the like intake meetings and try to get an understanding of, okay, beside the job description. So I don't want to talk about skills necessarily. What are you looking for? So tell me about a day. What makes your top performers extremely talented. What makes them top performers? What are you looking for? Is it initiative? Is it drive? Is it like, tell me about what stands out for the individuals that are doing well in that job? And then how do we tailor questions around that to really nail down what are you looking for?
Oh, wow. That's pretty deep. And you'll do that.
I do that. I'm actually
Wow.
hiring for a bunch of jobs right now. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that quite recently.
At what point are you like, crap, I just got to hire somebody? Forget it.
I mean, you can, but then like Rich said, it's going to hurt the culture, or you're going to be rehiring, or we're going to be performance managing down the road. You're going to have to deal with it either whether it's in the right beginning of hiring or if it's later in the process. It's going to play out.
So you would recommend taking the time in the initial hire,
Yes, for sure.
do the background checks, the screenings, whatever it is you're hiring for. Go ahead and do all that in the beginning because it'll save you time and money down the road. That's what I think I hear.
Correct. Yeah. Because imagine bringing them on and then you have to performance manager. How do you get them out? You have to make the decision. Maybe they sue you later, right? Maybe you've said all kinds of crazy things along the way. So they're like, hey, Ty said this to me this day. Like, I'm gonna bring
So
that up when they turn me.
let's run down the rabbit hole of hiring somebody quickly because we have a need. We got cars to process, we've got things to get done, we've got revenue to generate, we got profits to make. So let's go down the
We
rabbit
got
hole. We're going to hire somebody
clients.
fast.
We've got clients that are breathing down our neck.
We
Yeah.
gotta just get someone
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
So typical behavior. What do you see happening when people hire quickly?
They haven't fully vetted the candidate, and sometimes the candidate doesn't also know what they're getting into. So you might have a mismatch of skills or expectations in what the role is.
Yeah. So what I would say is, what do managers want? Managers want control, right? They want quick fixes. We want to get something. We got to go. We got to get this done now. But when you hire that, so let's say you're a manager and you're hiring for what you're used to managing, versus the long game for me would be hiring to build leadable people or bench strength, right?
Once we had that out in the open, the conversation shifted fast. Kelly started talking about what needs to happen before you ever post a job. And I'll be honest, it's the part most of us skip.
How do we go after somebody in the long game? Because every time I've hired somebody in the short game, it's backfired. And I've also allowed managers to hire for the short game just to prove to them through the lessons of life that that's not always the best choice to make. Now, sometimes we get lucky.
Yeah.
If you got somebody good like you, Kelly, to help us get through that, and we've got a good screening process, but I think it also goes back one step farther. You've identified that you have a job to fill. You either fired somebody, you got growth, somebody resigned, whatever it is. It all starts with writing the job description. And then you put in the ad in the paper. What you put out is what you get back. Right? So I think it starts right there, right? So, hey, what am I looking for? And then you said it best in the beginning. Are you looking for somebody like you cloning my team? Because if I go find somebody like me, then I'm going to have a bunch of dominant people, and that's not going to work out well. Or if I look around my team and I see I got a bunch of people that are high in compliance, like go get another compliance person. Well, crap, now I got a bunch of people that are all yes, no, and they're all going to fight all day long. So where do we find and how do we benchmark that? And I think that's part of write down your assessments. That's one thing I've done with my team is like, okay, we're filling this position. What are all the things we need, including behavioral or the disc side of it? What does our team look like and what do we need?
Exactly. And then if we're talking about interviewing, how do you screen to those other qualities that you might not normally think about that comes out in part of a conversation?
And how do you do that? That is the real question right there. I still am not good at that. I know what I want, but I'm not good at asking those questions. I'm not sure what questions to ask for other than to listen to the answers. Well, I can give you a real world example. We were recently hiring for an open position in the front office. Both candidates were highly qualified. So what we did is we said, all right, we had 3 people working together to interview and hire this person. 2 people on my team said, I want candidate A. One person said, I want candidate B.
Okay.
So we had a majority, but we weren't all on the same page. So what we did is we sent out a DISC assessment, and we had both candidates fill out the DISC assessment and come back so we could understand what are their behavioral motives or behavioral preferences versus their motivators. And when we got them back, we had one candidate that was clearly head and shoulders above the other one based on the behaviors and the motivations.
Was it the one that 2 wanted or the one that 1 wanted?
It was the one that 1 wanted.
Ooh.
And then how did you handle that?
So what I did is I gave the other 2 people, because it was me. I'm going to flat out say it. I wanted the 1, but I didn't want to force it on them. So we did the assessments, and then I sent them back to him. I said, here's candidate A, and I laid out all the behavior traits and I summarized it and the motivators, and then I laid out candidate B. And I said, based on these 2 candidates, which one do you choose? And when I emailed them, I blind copied both of them so the one couldn't influence the other. And they both came back and they gave me the name of the person they wanted to hire. And I said, no, I need to know if you want candidate A or candidate B. So when they were done, they both agreed on candidate A, because I messed with them. And that was who I had originally chosen, but they didn't know that. So I went back, I said, here's who you chose, and here's all the stuff. And they were like, wow. I said, what would you like to do? And they said, well, let's move forward, let's hire. And we hired that person a few weeks ago. And so far, it's been incredible. It's a great fit to the culture. Everything is going as expected. Now, we're still early. Things could change.
Yeah.
But early observations say we made the right decision because we pulled in a behavioral assessment to start asking, this is what we need, which one of these from these assessments fit it? Because I'm a believer that anybody can interview well a couple times. Anybody can fill out a resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Was the personality types different than the group?
They were both. So this position was for this person. We needed somebody that lived in the blue world. And the person we ended up hiring was a blue, green, yellow in that order. So not only did we need a lot of yes, no, but we also needed somebody that could work with the clients and the other people and not draw a hard line. The other one came back, was pretty much a very strong blue with a lot of hard lines, like this is how it's going to be. And it also sent up some red flags in the behavioral assessment saying, I'm going to push back, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it. And the other one was more along the collaborative line. This is how it should be done, but I'm open to other ways of learning and opportunities. Mind blown.
Now that we've talked prep, let's talk game time, the interview. This is where Kelly shows us how to go deeper than the resume and get to the heart of who somebody really is. Oh yeah, and Ty gets a little taste of that a lot.
What interview questions do you love or that you ask people that will get to like a cultural based answer? Like, is this person going to fit us in the culture? Not a skill based question.
I mean, there's so many things. One of my favorite like random questions is, it depends on what the culture is, but I will just say the random one is, when was the last time you did something for the first time? So that's one of my favorite like random ones that I'll ask at the end sometimes, because it gets at, is the person into doing like learning and growing and doing new things? And then sometimes they light up if they are. They're like, oh my goodness, I just did like whatever it was. Or I've had other ones where it's like, ooh, I haven't done anything new in 2 years. And so that will really tell you like, hey, this person doesn't go out of their comfort zone often. If that's something that's important to you for your culture, they're not going to go out of their comfort zone. They don't want to learn. They don't want to grow, or that's going to be a little more difficult for them. So that's a random one. No one ever expects that. Now I'm giving away my secrets.
That's good. I'll give away one of my secrets, because most of the people watching this probably aren't going to come to us for a job because they already have a job. Right. But my favorite question is to break the ice and start off as I say, tell me one thing that you do for fun that has nothing to do with work. Ty.
Crotch rocket.
I don't know that I would call it that, but hey, whatever you want to call it.
You wouldn't expect that.
So Kelly, we're interviewing Ty, and we just asked Ty. He's applied to become the new transportation manager, and you just asked him the first question. Ty, tell me, what's one thing you enjoy doing that has nothing to do with work? And he answers, crotch rocket. Does that send red flags?
I mean,
It's crazy.
maybe. Maybe if he called it that in an interview, possibly. He'd be like,
We just did.
Right?
Well, it could mean something like this guy's not afraid to get in there and get the job done.
Could.
It doesn't have to be a red flag.
It could. I'm not sure I would have pulled that from that answer, but maybe.
All right, so Ty.
How many people like to ride crotch rockets?
So what about riding really fast motorcycles made overseas? Do you enjoy?
Well, I have ADHD and OCD and a lot of D's and stuff. So for me, it makes me focus on one thing, and everything else goes away.
And
Just
now
have to focus.
it's people and culture's nightmare.
All I have to do is stay alive. Okay.
Oh man.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the job.
I don't think you got the job, Ty.
You suck. What do you want me? I like riding my tractor around. Is that safer for you? Come on.
Oh, goodness. But that question, I will tell you, that question does cut right to the chase, because I have had people answer almost like crazy like that. And I'm like, nope. And it's one of those things where I check out of the interview. It's a good thing I've got other people there to help me, because all right, let's move on. Let's go to the next question.
I was gonna say, what are you looking for? Like, how do you hope that they answer that? That's gonna tell you, right, if they're a good culture fit or not.
Well, I'm breaking down barriers is what I'm doing. And then you're going to find out really fast if somebody is a rebel or not. And I think just the way Ty answered it tells me this guy's going to be a rebel. Now, that might be what I need. I might need somebody to come into sales that's just going to go out and knock things down, not afraid to ask questions and tell people what, and then I've got the right person. But let's say I'm looking for, if I'm asking an accountant that, let's pretend we're interviewing Kai to be the office accountant, and he answers that question, and he's got all these ADHD things. I don't want that person. I don't want him in there working in that job, or writing a CR, right? If I'm writing a CR, I don't want somebody that's going to answer a question like that to come in and write CRs, because what's going to happen when the first motorcycle comes in? Ooh, wow, what if I take this for a spin? We've gone off the rails on that.
After we threw some real questions on the table, it became crystal clear. Skills aren't enough. Kelly started talking about emotional intelligence and how it changes the entire equation when you're building a people-first team.
Kelly, in your experience, what role does emotional intelligence play in hiring?
I can answer that in a couple of different ways. In the role that I'm in right now, how I best suit it is to be able to understand and be able to give advice as to the hiring manager for how this individual might show up later in their roles. So I don't know if you're asking it on emotional intelligence for like the people that are hiring, or if the interviewee.
Well, I think it takes both pieces. Hopefully, I've got emotional intelligence when I'm interviewing and when I'm doing the interview process. And the candidate, I hope, can share some of that as well, to understand, all right, when I'm coming in, because if you get somebody who's just a bulldog, complete jerk, and they're going to run everybody over, maybe self-awareness might be the word here.
I think there's self-awareness all around. It's going to be in the hiring manager realizing how they're showing up in the interview, making the person feel comfortable, but also not trying to be too intimidating about that unless that's what they want to do, I guess, in the interview to make someone nervous. I think it's emotional intelligence and really getting to the root of what are you looking for, and then being able to step back and say, like, okay, is that candidate answering questions in the way that's actually going to get me what I need, what is best for the role? And then there's the third step, which I was talking about, is how is it going to play out later? How are they answering questions now that's going to set us up that I can be a better leader for them later? Like, what are they going to need for support? What are they going to need for guidance? You can get a lot of that in an interview also.
All right, so let's go to another question. When we're interviewing somebody, we got the resume in front of us. They might not check all the boxes, but they're interviewing really well. What signals or what signs do you look for to say, I need to take a chance on Ty, who likes to ride motorcycles to solve his ADHD problems?
I was like, I don't know. I mean, I think, how do they fit? How are they fitting with the team that's interviewing? Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel open? Do they feel hungry that they want to connect with everyone else? Like, do they want to come in? Do they want to do the job? Is this something that they actually want at the same time? Are they excited about this opportunity? Are they motivated by this? Or are they just in it just to get another job? I think sometimes people there's all different kinds of things, situations where people need jobs, but is this role going to make them happy too? I think that's hard to say, but I think sometimes we can tell, like, this person might feel like a good fit, but ultimately, are they actually going to be happy in this role? Do they want a career job? Are we hiring for a role that someone needs to be in it for 3 years and this individual seems really motivated and that's why they like them? Well, they're probably not going to be happy staying in the role for 3 years and really learning and growing if they've been promoted X number of times over the last couple of years. So sometimes I think we feel like the right candidate might be in front of us, but it's taking a step back and being like, okay, are they overqualified in this? And that's why we might be really excited by them, but being realistic at the same time. So maybe that's where some of your awareness comes in too.
How can somebody be overqualified?
If they have been doing more stuff than what is actually needed in the day-to-day, right? If they are,
I'll give you an example. You've got an open accounting position in the office, and the person that applies for it has an advanced CPA certificate or degree, and all you need is somebody to do accounts payable or accounts receivable. Very basic accounting roles. That person applies, they're a CPA, they've got a degree in accounting, they've been doing accounting for 15 years. You're overqualified. I'm looking for an entry-level accountant that's not going to cost as much, because what's going to happen if I hire that person? Let's just throw a number out. Let's just say that hiring position's worth $40,000 or $50,000, but you've got this person with a CPA degree and he's probably worth 75, 80, 90, or she, maybe even more. And then they come in there, and what's going to happen, 3 months down the road when they're bored because what they're doing is the stuff they did when they first started their career, and they're not challenged mentally.
But then they tell you in the interview, I really want to do this, right? That's where it's coming back to being like, I'm not sure this is going to be the best fit long term. Where we started this of saying the money, right? They may be good. They may be able to do the job for 3 months, but then 6 months in, they are moving on because they're bored.
All right, so I'm going to jump again on you. You're interviewing a candidate, and they've got all the skills, but you look through their resume, and the longest they've been in any job is short term. And you define what short term is: 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, but nothing of any sustainability. They haven't stuck anywhere longer than, let's just say, 24 months, for crying out loud. What do you do? That's what?
That's concerning.
Why?
Yeah. Because why have they not stayed? I think if it's a pattern of behavior that's difficult to explain, depends. Are you talking 3 jobs that are like that, or are we talking 6 jobs? I think 6 jobs, if you haven't stayed, is going to be hard to explain. You need to see some tenure, because it can show that you don't just jump after something goes incorrect. There's too many reasons why someone could jump for short term. You want to have some longer tenure where they can get in, they can learn, they can grow, and get along with people. Is it the managers, the leaders? What is the reason of why they're moving on? It's problematic. I'm not sure if that's ever turned out.
Can I ask that question of an interviewee or a candidate and say, hey, I see you've jumped jobs a lot. You've changed a lot of positions recently. Tell me about it. Is that a fair question? Can I ask it?
Yeah.
Can I ask them why they left a job? Hey, you were at this job for 9 months. Why'd you leave? What am I listening for when they answer it?
Victimese.
And what is victimese, Ty?
Exactly.
Well, everybody told me to do stuff all the time and nobody else did anything. I was carrying all the weight and I just got tired of it. So I just left because everybody else they don't do nothing. I'm the one that does everything.
Everyone else is stupid.
They didn't even give me the right tools to do the job
Mhm.
or explain it to me. I mean, it's here, take this and go do that. And I've had enough of that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go get on my crotch rocket and ride. Fuck you.
Is your favorite song "The Joker" by Steve Miller Band?
The what?
Is your
The
favorite
Joker?
song "The Joker" by the Steve Miller Band?
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it.
What's in your coffee cup, Ty?
Victimese.
Right.
You got a tall cup of victimese.
You know, this was going so well until all of a sudden you just went off the rails after your victimese. It was incredible. It was good. So
I nailed it though. That was the answer to the question.
That was a great answer. It's
it was a
blaming. They're
great
going to do the
answer.
I,
same thing and back
I
up.
got it first too. I was like,
All right.
I
So
know.
let's go back, Kelly. How do I train? How do I, even me, I'm weak at this. I stink at it. How do I interview to see beyond just the skills on a resume and to spot contributors or team players?
You ask open-ended questions based on how your work setting is to an extent. So let me give you an example, right? I think it depends on pace for the company. So everyone's going to say, my company's really fast paced, love it, right? You ask, tell me about a day that was extremely fast paced, really stressful. What was going on? What are all the components that made up the day? Depending on that person's answer, then you can look at how does that fit in our day to day? Is it way faster and they're going to be fine? Is it way slower and our pace is off the charts different? This person's stress level from what they've experienced isn't going to match up. Asking those open-ended questions for specific examples and then digging in where you don't necessarily have clarity is super important because it'll give you that clearer picture to how they are looking at experiences and then how that matches up with your company and your culture in the day-to-day.
Okay, so Ty, Kelly and I
Yes.
are interviewing you. I'm the hiring manager. Kelly is people and culture. You're interviewing for the check-in manager position. So Ty,
Like
at the auction, we have a very high pace. Speed and production are key. I've got to have it every single day. Tell me about a time in your career when you dealt with high speed, high production, high pressure, and how'd you handle it?
I don't want to be overqualified, so I'll just say I had a couple trucks.
You're just trying to make my editing skills more
Okay.
polished.
The question. Tell me the question one more time.
All right, we're hiring for check-in manager. It's a
Oh, I was
high
something
pace,
busy.
high
Okay.
production, high speed, accuracy's everything. Tell me about a situation that you've dealt with, a similar situation in the past where you could pull your skills in to help me check in cars.
Lots of cars to transport and to get them gathered up on a regular basis. So you got to hurry up because the truck's coming to get the cars. So when you run into obstacles, dead batteries, no keys, flat tire, out of gas, it becomes very stressful because somebody's waiting on you to hurry up and get the cars so they can keep going. So when things like that happen, how do you deal with it? That's
So,
what you're asking
yeah,
me.
so how do you deal with that? How did you deal with it?
Well, you make friends with the people at the auction. You bring them donuts, you bring them coffee, you bring them Starbucks gift cards. And whenever you run into a jam, you can go to old, say, Tim on the golf cart. The golf cart's set up with an air compressor, a jump box, and a can of gas. Tim and I are now good friends. So anytime I just do this, Tim, he knows it's important and I'm not playing around. So I become friends with the people at the auction and I use them doing their job anyway to help me do mine more efficient. So I build a team basically without even my own players.
Two things on that. One, I would have asked how many trucks. So when you're talking about a day, how many trucks is that?
Let's just say 10.
Okay. So then, Rich, how does that fit in with your day?
Yeah, that's 90 cars that we got to go find in the auction, that we got to somehow get checked out. We got to somehow either take pictures of it before it leaves or right on the back of the gate pass, any damages. Then once we get the car out, we got to make sure we got enough space to keep them all together. So you know how truck drivers are. They're not all there. I don't know. I can't find the keys. I can't do this. I can't do that. Victimese, right? Truck drivers, car haulers, that's what they do best. So getting, say, 90 cars out of one auction on 10 trucks, excuse me, with 10 different drivers, 10 different personalities, there's a lot to juggle there. Quite a bit, really.
So then how does that match with your pace, Rich?
I mean, I was going to ask you, so we break down this answer. So if we're working with a manager, we're going to break down this answer. I mean, here's what I heard that I would interpret back. I heard that Ty's a team player. I heard he's a problem solver. He looks to build peace or work with other departments in order to get the task or the jobs done. That's what I heard.
What'd you hear, Kelly?
For me, I would say, okay, well then, like, part of what I didn't hear was a specific day, right? So what I would want to hear is, hey, on this day, I had 90 trucks. I had to check them in. This is what I did. That this is exactly what had happened that day. For me, it was like broader. So I would be like, was that an actual day? Or are you just telling me? Sometimes more when people talk in broader, you're kind of like, that's what makes me a little more concerned, right? I would want to dig into specifics on that day to be like, are you like filling me with an answer here, right? Sometimes that's where it's easier to kind of like play around. Or are you speaking in broad strokes because you don't want to come across as overqualified for this role either?
Okay, Ty.
That's what I'm really worried about.
So on this day that you did 90 trucks, tell me more about it. What kind of day was it?
Well, it's actually, so my role is Tuesday through Friday. I'm at an auction Tuesday through Friday, different location, different auction. At that auction, my job is to shake hands with car dealers, gather gate passes, then gather trucks to build loads. So Tuesday, I'm at an auction. I have 90 cars, and I'm going to have 10 trucks that can haul 9 cars at a time. My job is to make sure that those 90 cars fit on each truck. So I'm dealing primarily in used cars. So I might have a truck, an SUV, and a car, 9 of them, different sizes. Will they fit? So can we make it fit on the load? That's important as you're building loads at the auction Tuesday through Friday for your driver. So now we have to consider the driver. I know this load will fit. I know I can load this load, but can Chuck, the driver?
That's a lot.
So we have to keep in mind, is Chuck capable of doing this? He is, but he's going to call me 6 times in the process. So I know Chuck, what Chuck's capable of doing. So rather than have him call me 6 times, which I don't want to do because I'm busy, I just give Chuck 8, and I know Chuck can load 8, and Chuck won't call me. That's just one example of one driver at one sale on one day. So then we can go to the next day and the next day, and that's what we do.
Yep. See, there you go. See that? I was like, all right, look at all the things that you have to think about in a day. You're thinking ahead, you're problem solving, you're one step ahead of everyone else. You're able to multitask, prioritize. The details in that when you continue. So, like, that's a great example, right? We didn't feel like we had all of the answers that gave us a clear picture. We push a little bit more to get specific details. And then you're like, all right, either they can do this job or they can't. But I think oftentimes in an interview, someone's just like, you ask a question and the candidate answers and you feel bad digging in or asking more. So you're just like, okay, right? And then you move on to the next question. It's important to ask for clarity where you need it so that way you're getting a good fit for both the candidate and the company.
So what do we do with all this? Simple. Hiring isn't about what someone has done. It's about who they are and how they'll grow with your culture. As Kelly reminded us, emotional intelligence, attitude, and team alignment aren't just buzzwords. They're business strategy. If you want to build a team that leads with trust, humility, and hope, don't just hire for skill, hire for soul. We'll see you next time. And hey, Don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn. Until then, keep your engines revving and your foot on the gas.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversations help to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.